it's been 2 months since I've last posted, as of scripting and recording. It's officially 2022, and I've gotten my motivation back. That, and I'm no longer poor, so I can actually pay for the movies I want to talk about. So in order to kick 2022 off with a strong left hook, I decided to review a movie that I hate with every fiber of my being. This isn't going to be a good mental health year for me. Now hear me out. I'm fat, ugly, and have a shitty personality. When you combine all those fucking traits into one cacophony of a human being, you end up with a nigga that isn't able to pull any bitches. Which means I'm lonely as fuck. And in order for me to cope with that fact, I'm going to relentlessly bully and shit on someone who has it 10 times worse off than me. Which brings me to today's movie, Dear Evan Hansen. This movie is ass, and I'm going to let you know about it. Now, originally I saw this movie in theaters with 3 of my friends, and I heard the play was good, so I figured, sure, we can watch the movie. How bad could it be? Well, let me tell you, if you're susceptible to secondhand embarrassment, then this is the movie for you, my guy. This shit is a 2-hour-long cringe fest, and not even in a good way. At least when I watched the first Suicide Squad movie, that shit didn't have me curling in my seat for a good chunk of the movie. This shit, on the other hand, hell no. But before I prematurely blow my rage-filled load all over this disgrace of a film, let's hop into the movie and see what we're working with. So without further ado, grab your strongest bottle of gin and turn off your brain cells, because today I present to you Dear Evan Hansen. Now, like I said before, I've seen this movie in theaters with my friends, but for the sake of this video, I went out of my way to pay for this movie on YouTube, and I had to watch the movie 2 separate times because for whatever reason, YouTube decided to be a jackass and not allow me to download movies that I paid for onto my PC. So that resulted in me having to spend the total of 4 hours finding a website to pirate a movie that I'd already bought. So, I have a few choice words for YouTube real quick. Listen here, motherfucker. In no universe should I have to be able to pay $20 for a movie on YouTube and not be able to download it to my PC. That doesn't make sense. I couldn't even download it to my phone via the YouTube app, and yet somehow, some way, you even fucked that up. I tried Google TV to download it. Nope, that doesn't work. Google TV is fucking ass. You know what I had to do? I had to spend the better part of 4 fucking hours trying to find a third-party website to pirate a movie that I purchased already because your fucking website is so incompetent that you can't even give me a functional download button. So listen here, motherfucker. I have the full movie downloaded, screen recorded, and pirated. Full 2 hours, 17 minutes of your movie will be spread across the entire scope of the fucking internet until you fix your shit. I will have you on your hands and fucking knees begging, sucking my dick to either stop or you give me my $20 fucking back, because in no way in shit should I have had to go through all of that shit when I paid for the movie and yet I still had to fucking pirate it, you dumb fucks. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Anyway, got off topic there. Dear Evan Hansen is a movie produced by Mark Platt, Adam Segel, and Universal Pictures. This movie was adapted from the original stage play, and that play was adapted from the book, all of which have the same title, Dear Evan Hansen. And fun fact, did you know that the 8-hour audiobook is available on YouTube for free right now? Guess who listened to the audiobook for the sake of comparing the book to the movie? Like I said, this isn't going to be a good mental health year for me. We're introduced to Evan, our protagonist, played by Ben Platt, who also had the lead role in the stage play. Wait a minute. Mark Platt, Ben Platt, oh, okay, I see what's going on now. Now look, I could go on all day about the casting decisions for Evan. I mean, let's face it, a 28-year-old playing the role of a high school senior, kinda iffy, just doesn't really work out. But you know what? I could say so many things, but it wouldn't sound right. I think Scriffzilla can put my thoughts into better words.
The director has gone on record stating that the film's main goal was to capture and immortalize Platt's performance. This movie was made in order to get the mental image of a 27-year-old man poorly masquerading as a teenager into all of our brains for the rest of time. In order to really sell us on Ben Platt's godlike performance, they cut the opening number with Heidi and Cynthia, and then they cut Good For You, the song where Heidi and Evan's friends actually call him out on his bullshit. Because, God forbid, we call out the godlike performer that is Ben Platt!
Evan here is getting ready for the first day of his senior year, and it's made very apparent that Evan is a sort of social reject with extreme anxiety if the pills on his decks weren't obvious enough. After which we get thrown into a musical segment. If I haven't mentioned it before, this movie is a musical drama. Let me tell you now, I'm not the biggest fan of musicals. But for the sake of one of my friends that will later be appearing in this video, I tried to dip my toes into the water with this movie and immediately started fucking drowning. This shit was not pretty.
Yeah, I got these emotions every day I'm trying to hide. They ask me how I'm doing and I always tell them fine. I was down on my luck, I had to battle what's inside. I know it's gonna be alright, gotta get back to the grind. Hey, it's gonna be alright, yeah, it's gonna be alright, hey.
After this, we're shown Evan attending his high school prep rally, where we get introduced to some of the more... Actually, no, they're not even prominent characters. Some of the other characters that are seen in the rest of this movie. First, we have Jared, played by Nick Dodani, whose character kind of serves no purpose other than being the flamboyant, snarky asshole in the movie. That I know that sounds harsh, but like, please, tell me what other purpose this nigga serves in the entire movie. I'm waiting. That's what I thought, bitch. We get to briefly see Zoe, played by Caitlin Dever, who is the girl that Evan has a crush on. But he's too pussy to actually do anything, which Jared makes fun of him for, due to the fact that Evan is a complete nervous wreck.
I was kidding. You obviously should not talk to her. You were a literal disaster.
You fucking pussy. I'm already getting too fucking pissed off. We're barely into this shit. Anyway, moving on. Alana, played by Ruth from the Hunger Games. Oh shit, my bad. I mean, Amanda Stenberg. Alana's character is Alana. That's all I got, really. She doesn't really do anything in the movie either. We'll get to that later. Right. After this, we cut to Evan at his locker, where we see the next plot point, character, Connor, played by Colton Ryan. Connor here is seen being picked on by generic high schoolers number 354 through 58, and because Evan made direct eye contact and awkwardly laughed, this results in Connor kind of blowing up at Evan.
Stop laughing!
Zoe tries following up to apologize for her brother's behavior, and let's pause here real quick and analyze this situation. Evan has been presented with the chance to talk to the person that he's been pseudo-stalking. So, will he, A, make conversation like a normal person, B, take the apology and walk away, or C, freeze up and act like a bitch? I'll give you 10 seconds. Of course it was fucking C. This nigga's a fucking dumbass. Why is this nigga running away like he got an extreme case of bubble guts? Fuck, I hate this nigga. Afterwards, we find him in the library typing another letter to himself, by the way that I mentioned about the letters, that'll be important later on. There he meets Connor again, who tries to make small talk with him, but both these niggas have such poor communication skills, they end up sitting there awkwardly, and eventually, this dumbass just ends up printing out his letter, and once Connor reads the content of said letter, he isn't too thrilled at the mentioning of his little sister.
That back. So can you please just give it back?
Well, Evan, you can kiss any remnant of your non-existent social life goodbye, because, you are fucked. after fuckwit Hansen pops some pills that he spilled on the piss-soaked bathroom floor, we get a montage of this man completely bugging out, trying to figure out what Connor has done with this letter and seeing if he's leaked his cringe onto the internet. Luckily for Evan, it doesn't seem like Connor has done anything with it. And once back at school, Evan is still a bit on edge, but he starts thinking maybe Connor won't do anything with the letter since he hasn't been seen in about 3 days at this point. But then...
Evan Hansen, please report to Mr. Howard's office.
Oh, damn.
Don't worry about it. I be on my grind, working overtime just so I make sure we alright for the night. Don't worry about it.
In the principal's office, Evan meets Connor's parents, played by Amy Adams and Larry Pino. The reason they wanted to meet Evan is technically related to the letter, but not in the way that he was expecting, because it turns out that
Connor took his own life.
It looks like he may commit suicide. Suicide is badass.
I'm going to fucking hell for this, dog. I can't even. So, turns out that because Evan's letter was found on Connor's body, Connor's parents kind of assumes that he and Evan were friends. And I'll give Evan the slightest bits of props here for at least trying to tell them that it wasn't really that way. But since Connor signed his cast before he killed himself, Evan ends up having to lie himself into a corner, and next thing you know, he's invited to a nice family dinner with the Murphys. Now, at this point, any logical person would immediately set things straight and tell the truth, but you see, Evan isn't a logical person. That, and we still have an hour and 45 minutes of road time, so of course, Evan begins to lie his ass off, singing about how he and Connor were such good friends and all of this sappy bullshit. Hopefully this song will take away from the fact that he's actively lying to this grieving family. I already know this man's ancestors are looking down on his goofy ass with fucking shame. God damn. Because this man decided to pile a lie on top of another already flimsy lie, he has to ask his boy Jared to help him make some fake emails to prove that he and Connor were actually friends. Which leads us into Sincerely Me. Probably the only funny moment of this movie. But don't get it twisted. When I say funny, I don't mean, haha, that shit got me fucking wheezing, barely able to stand up, coughing a damn lung out. I mean, it's funny because at this point in the plot, the real Connor Murphy is 6 feet under, dead as fuck. But now we have to sit here and watch his corpse dance for a few minutes, singing about how strong his friendship is with Evan. And it's really fucking twisted. That's why I like it so much. Did this nigga really just hit the fucking whoa? Damn, this nigga should have killed himself earlier. If I ever see a nigga hitting the row unironically at a function, regardless of if it's my house or not, they are getting tossed out faster than Jazz from Uncle Phil's place, bro. Also, this might be a bit of a nitpick, but something that really irks me when it comes to the songs and listening to them alone, they just sound vastly different when compared to the actual scenes from the movie. I mean, let's take Sincerely Me as an example. Listen to this and tell me you don't hear a difference in the songs itself.
I gotta tell you, life without you has been hard, has been bad, has been rough,
Kinky.
I gotta tell you, life without you has been hard, has been bad, has been rough.
Kinky.
Sister's hot. What the hell?
My bad.
You can be who you wanna be. Sincerely me. My sister's hot. What the hell? My bad.
Whether it's from the studio pulling some of the songs from the stage play, or the background noise of the scenes messing with the audio, well, it doesn't really matter. But either way, this shit makes my eardrums feel unpleasant listening to it. After delivering his stack of fake emails to Connor's parents, we are shown the effects that these emails are having on the Murphy family. And understandably so, I guess. I mean, just imagine for a sec, losing a son or brother to suicide, and the only bit of him you have left are some emails between him and his supposed friends. that would really suck to have to go through that. It's at this point we get to my favorite song of the movie, Requiem. I'm not being ironic here, actually. Like, I actually do enjoy this song quite a bit. Sure, the separate soundtracks when it compared to the actual movie are a bit different than they're supposed to be, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this song has a major impact. While watching this for the first time with my friends in theater, when Zoe was starting to speed in her car, I damn near fell out of my seat thinking we're about to witness another suicide on screen. Bruh, when I tell you this scene had my blood pressure rising, I'm not even joking. The music and build-up sold it more and more that she was going to full send it, but luckily she didn't. So we're all good. For now. So at this point, let's fast forward to when Alana approaches Evan at school. Since she doesn't know that Evan and Connor weren't actually friends, she asks Evan if he would be willing to do a little speech at the assembly for the school that they're doing in Connor's honor. Bars. Now originally, he does the smart thing and lets her down on the offer, but this is bitch boy Evan we're talking about. So after some prodding from Connor's family, he gives in and goes to confirm things with Alana. And for whatever reason, we get this random ass song from Alana that feels weirdly out of place. Don't get me wrong, the song is decent. It's just like, why the fuck are we getting this song from a character we've barely seen since the beginning of the movie? Bruh, when I tell you that Amanda Stenberg was heavily underutilized in this movie, I fucking mean that shit. Both Alana and Jared feel like they should matter more to the plot, but their existences are so devoid of attention that it feels almost like they aren't even there. I know for a fact both these characters had more to do in the book and the stage play, and it annoys me how wasted their characters are here. And don't even get me started on Heidi. Them pulling damn near all of her songs from the movie was a complete ass pull. Alright, so now in order to calm myself a bit and stop me from having a fucking heart attack, I've invited one of my friends to come talk about their thoughts on the movie in comparison to the stage play, seeing that he's the one that introduced me to the movie in the first place. So, without further ado, Jimothy, take it away from me.
Hey guys, it's Amir's friend Patrick, obviously, as he probably already told you. But yeah, dear Evan Hansen, let's look at this. I have a lot of thoughts on this movie, but I didn't script anything, so this is going to be me talking about certain points that I know I want to bring up with my brain, trying to operate as a brain, which, if you know me, you know my brain doesn't do that very well, so this is going to be fun. Anyways, let's get into this. Dear Evan Hansen is a movie that was adapted from a stage musical from 2015, and it was a very controversial release. I'm gonna go ahead and say I think the movie is good. I don't think it's great. It's very heavily flawed, and I'm actually gonna talk about those flaws starting now. First flaw, the tone. The tone is far from nailed in this movie. One thing the stage did is it had a lot of moments of levity and comedy to balance out the more dramatic moments and the heavy themes, and it worked and it flowed together very nicely. It was very well stitched together. The movie takes a very serious, grimmer, darker approach to it, and at times it really works. Other times, the comedy, and I mean, there is comedy in the movie, but it's very mundane. It's just, you know, and another problem that comes with this is some of the scenes that were very comedic in the stage version are turned into just awkward moments in this movie where you're just kind of sitting there watching this go down instead of laughing at the awkwardness of it. And the primary example of that is towards the beginning of the movie in the stage play. There's one scene where something happens with Connor Murphy and he yells at Evan, embarrasses him, scares him, and so Connor's sister Zoe walks up to Evan. Evan has a crush on Zoe, so in the stage play he starts like kind of talking loudly. He's like, sorry. In the movie version, he exhales deeply and goes, sorry. So he's just kind of standing there as she's talking to him, and he goes, sorry. And then while in the stage play, after this interaction, that was kind of endearing, actually, really funny. After this interaction, Zoe Murphy walks off in her own direction, does her own thing, leaving Evan where he is. In the movie version, after exhaling in her face and whispering sorry, he books it and runs like some goober. And it's like, bro, she's talking to you. Really? Like, just say something. Do something. Like, just like vomit on her shoes for all I care. Just do something besides running away. And the way you ran, really, man? Who runs like that? Who runs like that? Nobody. I'm double speaking because that's how badly he ran. Anyways, yeah. So stuff like that happens, and it really messes with the tone, and yeah, since the comedy is so present in the stage production, it makes the dramatic scenes, the heavy scenes, very, very impactful. Meanwhile, in the movie, you just have, it's just like those impactful scenes, while they are emotional, they're just another dramatic scene. And it just, I don't know, it didn't work very well for me. Except in the movie, there's one scene where it becomes really, really theatrical and comedic, and it just felt super jarring. And that's gonna lead me to my next point, is the songs obviously affect the tone, and there are 4 major songs cut from this movie. There were reprises that were cut too, but I'm not gonna really talk about those. The first song is called Anybody Have a Map? You know, it's the opening number of the musical, and it does a really good job of showing what's happening through different perspectives. It sets up the sympathetic side of Evan in a very lighthearted and comedic way, instead of kind of sad like the movie does. And then it not only does it set up, you know, the perspectives and the sympathy, but it has different dynamics set up between Evan and his mom, and Connor and the Murphy family, and it does a really good job of that. But not only that, it has dramatic subtext while it's still fast-paced and comedic. Basically, this song is saying, yes, this play is heavy, you will cry, it will get emotional, but it's okay to laugh. It is okay to have fun with this play at times as well. And that really, and the play follows, the stage version follows through with that tone. You have moments where you can have fun. But the movie doesn't have that. And so when you get to that jarring scene I was talking about, it's the song Sincerely Me, it just felt off. It was like, why are we in this scene now? It's so comedic and so over the top and theatrical, but none of the other parts of the movie are like this. It didn't fit, and not having Anybody Have a Map really did mess that up. Now the next song that they cut out is called Disappear, and this also was a mistake to cut this out, because what it does is it really expresses why Evan is doing what he's doing. You see the character of Connor Murphy come back as a ghost, but it's really just Evan's his subconscious speaking to him. So he's having like this inner debate. He's having this inner struggle, and it really shows him as a full fleshed out character. And so by the time we get to the song You Will Be Found, in that speech scene, it feels earned. Now, the movie, it does have a song there, and because they wrote 2 songs for this movie. The first one replaces Disappear. It's called The Anonymous Ones. It's honestly a really good song, I'm not gonna lie. It is a great song. It develops the character of Alana better, who wasn't really developed in the stage version. And it brings up the fact that there are people who go through depression and anxiety and all that sort of stuff, but they're really good at hiding it. They'll talk to people, they'll laugh, and all that sort of stuff. They're really good at hiding it. And I love that dynamic brought to Dear Evan Hansen. It really fits the themes. However, it's not good enough to justify the disappearance of the song it replaced. Oh, that's a good one. Anyways, the next song that they, replaced is called, I think, To Break in a Glove. I think that's the title of it. And it's not really relevant to the plot. It just sets up Evan. It kind of expands the dynamic between Larry Murphy and Evan Hansen. You know, since Evan doesn't have a father, Larry's kind of his surrogate father now. It really does help develop that, though. You know, while it's not relevant to the plot, and they did just replace it with a small scene of dialogue, which also kind of worked. It's still a good number and does help develop the character of Evan Hansen better. It makes him more sympathetic. So yeah, again, another song that was cut out that I guess could have been, and it was, but it would be better if it wasn't cut out, you know? And finally, the fourth and final song that they cut out of this movie that was detrimental to cut out was Good For You. This song, again, it shows different perspectives, including Evan's mother. After Evan's done terrible things, you see Evan's quote-unquote family friend Jared, you see Alana. Not one, not two, but three people calling Evan out on his BS and that he is saying he has done terrible things. And the reason this is important is because Evan has done terrible things. He's done horrible things to these people. And this really like showcases that, and they're cursing him out, they're yelling at him, and it's really satisfying. And it reminds you that even though Evan does intend well, he's doing something horrible. And it does, again, a good job of fleshing that out. Meanwhile, in the movie, the most he gets is like, the times he's kind of called out or looked at, it's just like, oh yeah, he made some mistakes, but it's cool. But nah, in the play, they're like, no, he made terrible decisions. And it just made it feel better, you know? I'm gonna go ahead and go to the mixed aspect of things because I pretty much talked about all I can there. A very mixed aspect is Ben Platt because he played Evan Hansen on stage back when it premiered in 2015, and he was great in the role. And honestly, he channels that really well here, and he has a very angelic voice, and he's great at acting, gives a great performance for a stage production, not for a movie. And what I mean by that is his acting is very over the top, while everybody else is in a movie. And you know, in a movie, you need to be more subtle. You need more nuance with your performance. And it feels like he's like performing to the back of the audience, and it's not very personal. And again, it's a great performance, but not for film. That being said, I don't think it's fully Ben Platt's fault. He played this character countless times. He probably got into a rhythm of playing it in the same way, and even though he changes a couple things here and there, it's basically the exact same performance. But the problem here is the lack of direction. That's the problem, and it shows, you know? And I'm gonna go ahead and address this. Yeah, Ben Platt's age, okay? In this movie, he looks like a 45-year-old, 17-year-old, and honestly, for me, it wasn't too distracting. I think they could have done a better. I mean, there were a couple shots here and there where I definitely noticed, and the de-aging makeup really did nothing but make him look older at times. And yeah, honestly, the biggest reason it wasn't distracting for me is because I'm 18 at the time of recording this, and I've seen 17-year-olds that look like they were born filing taxes. Yeah, it didn't bother me that much. So, Now we're gonna get to the good aspects of the movie. The music is obviously really good because they use the same music from the stage, plus the two new songs are pretty decent, right? It adds that new dynamic of Alana and the anonymous ones, really cool. The performances all around are pretty decent, you know, pretty good. Julianne Moore and Amy Adams knocked it out of the park with their performances. Even if Julianne Moore's role as Heidi Hansen was cut short, she really did work with what she had, and she did a great job. And I didn't know she could sing. Bro, like, where was that in Hannibal? Come on. The cinematography was decent. Nothing really wrong with it, to be honest. Could have been a little more creative though, but it was pretty decent. The emotional moments, I said they're not as impactful, and that remains true, but they are still well done. I think they're still pretty good. Especially that scene towards the end with, not towards the end, in the first act with Requiem. The Requiem, best scene of the movie by far, and it was such a simple scene, and it was really well done. And wow, great scene. Yeah. Oh, also, the new ending is much better in my opinion than the stage versions, because in the stage version, you know, he kind of has that emotional climax, realizes what he did was wrong, and then he kind of just gets forgiven in the end. It's like, oh, okay. But in the movie, he actually has to redeem himself. He actually has to, and they kind of do allude to him doing something to redeem himself in the stage version, but we get to see that redemption here. He does stuff to redeem himself, and not only for his own benefit, for the people who he wrongs benefit. And I loved that. It was great. Honestly, that's what made the movie so much, like, that's what really made the movie as good as it was to me. I mean, before that, I'm like, yeah, it was decent, but I thought that was what made it good, that ending. Also, Evan and Zoe's relationship, much better portrayed in this movie than the stage, I think. Now, I don't think it's particularly good, but neither was the stage version of their relationship, because in the stage version, he likes her, then he lies to her, then he kisses her, then she's vulnerable, so she kisses him, then now they're together. In the movie, you see multiple scenes of them interacting and like forming a bond before they start dating. And the song Only Us turns from let's keep our relationship just about us and let's make a relationship just about us. And honestly, Only Us was a nice scene in the movie. It had a nice little montage. It was a nice scene in my opinion. Yeah, that's pretty much all the good I want to talk about. But I do want to talk about this, okay? So obviously this movie is very controversial. People said it was good, some people said it was bad. I looked at the scores on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics gave it 30%, audience gave it 88%. Blew my mind. So I went to check the amount of Google users who like this movie. 68% like this movie. Seems about right. Okay. Then I went to check the reviews. 4.1 stars overall. 4.1 stars. And you know, and I was talking about this with Amir, and we both initially had the same thought. Maybe it's like me, to where when I first saw the movie, I didn't really see any problems, but then the second time I saw the movie, there were more glaring issues. Maybe they were like that, but then I looked at the dates of when these reviews were put out. The movie had already been out of theaters by that point, which means that people probably already saw the movie multiple times and were giving it, you know, like 4 or 5 star reviews. And blew my mind. And so it was killing me. I was wondering, where is that disconnect? Where is the difference between one person and another? And really, this movie is the definition of art is subjective. But I think I found it. Sympathy versus empathy. And, you know, to explain the difference, sympathy is like if your friend's dog dies, but you've never had a dog, you still are like, oh, I'm sorry for your loss. You still feel bad. Empathy, if your friend's dog dies and you had a dog who died, you have the same feeling from your own past, so you can, you know, you have empathy and you can relate to him. And I think the movie really struggles with showcasing Evan's sympathy. However, it does a good job of asking some people to give him empathy. The problem is with that is like you have a whole audience. How many people in those audience are actually going to be able to personally relate to Evan? That's where a huge disconnect is, I think. That's what I've been able to gather. A lot of people said that they related to Evan, and honestly, I did too. Now, I'm not nearly as terrible of a person as him. I didn't ever, you know, manipulate a grieving family like that. But this is gonna get a little serious. I've had suicidal ideation, I've had depression, social anxiety, I felt like I'm alone, I've had a crush on a girl, I've had issues with my mother, with her thinking she's a failure, and us having, like, you know, a rocky relationship. And then the lyrics where he sings, what if everyone saw, what if everyone knew, would they like what they saw, or would they hate it too? I felt it on a personal level. It was, I've even lied and manipulated. I lied to and manipulated people for my own personal gain and because I thought it was best for them. And I'm not condoning that. I was definitely in the wrong. Do as I say, not as I do. But yeah, if you're able to, I've seen people empathize with Evan and they like the movie. If you sympathize with him, well, you're not going to. You're probably not going to. So yeah, I think that's where the big disconnect is, the big difference. And I'd recommend this movie to anybody who can empathize with him instead of sympathize. However, I don't know who to recommend that to because I don't know who does empathize versus sympathize, you know? But yeah, overall, I'll give this movie a 7.5 out of 10, C rating. It's definitely not the best movie I've ever seen, probably not even the best musical adaptation, but it's far from the worst. It's not like I had to sit through and watch The Bye Bye Man multiple times, okay? That's the worst movie ever made, by the way. Hate that movie. But yeah, C rating, 7.5 out of 10. Like the movie, had good emotional moments sometimes, had a pretty overall good cast, good music, and it was a decent time, you know? I want to thank Amir for letting me speak on here, and I'll see you later.
That will probably be the last bit of positive feedback that this movie will be getting from me in this fucking video. Now back to the plot.
All on this road,
Oh great, my least favorite scene of the whole movie. The time has come for Evan to give his speech about Connor. And this scene alone had me rolling around in my chair, cringing hard as fuck. I already hate the thought of public speaking, let alone on a stage in front of people. But watching this nigga trip over his feet, it's just... Fuck! This nigga dropped everything, bro. Fuck! Why does he remind me of me? I'm going to fucking hang myself. Kill me. One melodramatic song later, and suddenly the internet is spreading the video around for everyone to see. And people starts relating to Connor's situation, and a positive message is being spread, yada yada yada. I really can't be bothered at this point. I know it's supposed to be a touching and impactful moment for the plot, but I feel nothing at this point. I'm effectively dead inside watching all of this. All of this shit is being supported by an unstable foundation of lies. Fast forward a bit, Alana sets up the Connor project, and Evan and Zoe starts dating after a few songs, much to Jared's disgust. I feel you, bro. It's at this point Evan starts completely forgetting what's gotten him to this position in the first place. And he's so busy with Zoe that he starts forgetting about the promises he's made to Jared and Alana about the Connor project. And the fact that he bails on both of them shows that Evan here is starting to get a little too fucking comfortable. This is where cracks in the foundation begin to form. It's all downhill from here. Alana starts piecing together that Evan might be bullshitting about the fact that he was Connor's friend to begin with. And she starts pressing this nigga over all the inconsistencies in his stories. So once again, Evan has to bust out "Oh, reliable" and shows Alana the letter from the very start of this. And in one of the most slimiest moves I've ever witnessed, he has the fucking nerve to say this bullshit.
If we weren't friends, then he wouldn't have written his note to me.
You know, you can fuck right off, you pathetic piece of shit. I find it so ironic how at the start of this you were so desperate to get this situation over and done with and clear shit up. But now that you're actually benefiting off of the lies you've told about the death of one of your peers, now you want to keep up the charade. Evan Hansen, you're a piece of shit. And I want you to know it. While this heathen continues to gas himself up, Alana, in a moment of desperation for the sake of the Connor project, posts the letter Evan wrote in order to help the movement. This results in the Murphy family getting effectively shunned and criticized by the internet and town due to the fact that since everyone believed Connor wrote the note, within that context, it made Connor's family look absolutely abysmal for not helping him out in his time of need. This results in the family starting to implode on themselves, and finally, dickhead Evan decides to come clean to the family and admit to the fact that all of it was bullshit and it all happened because his ass was lying like the clown he is. After the family rightfully tells him to get lost, the movie expects us to suddenly feel bad for this dumbass because, oh no, his poor feelings. They have the fucking nerve to make us listen to this bullshit "feel bad for me" pity song. And did I mention that Ben Platt has a very punchable face in this scene? Because he has a very punchable face in this scene. This whole song and sequence is a fucking joke. But the pity party doesn't end there. Once Heidi gets home... Oh, by the way, did I mention Heidi, Evan's nearly non-existent mother, who's present in the plot has been damn near completely erased. She only shows up a handful of times, and Evan spends most of that time acting like an ass to her. God, they wasted Julianne Moore's fucking role in this movie. This shit is a train wreck. Once she gets home, she finds Evan sulking in his room, and we're put through another 7 minutes plus a fucking song to help drive the point that we should be feeling bad for Evan at this moment in time. Fuck no! He dug his own grave at this point. He could have stopped his bullshit at any moment, and only waited until he had no other choice than to tell the truth. He constantly lied to Connor's family in order to get some sort of sick validation or acceptance from them, when in reality, all he was doing was profiting off the grief of a family that was coping with the loss of a loved one. And now that he has all of this compassion and attention ripped away from him, we're supposed to feel bad and forget all the terrible shit he pulled? All because of, oh, I have anxiety, I almost committed suicide? Fuck off! I have no ounce of sympathy for this fucking clown. The fact that the movie wants me to say otherwise makes me pissed off more than being sympathetic. Evan finally does what he should have done at the beginning and tells the truth to the public, because after having an innocent family harassed for the last few days, it's the least you can do, you know? But even this doesn't really feel satisfying due to the fact that the blow up moment and the karma is all self-inflicted. There wasn't a major moment where Evan got called out for his bullshit, like in the book and in the play. All that happens is he goes, herder, I lied, and he only gets a few weird looks at school, and that's about it. Ain't nothing satisfying about this, bruh. Finally, we end this shit show at the apple orchard that's been restored in Connor's name. And Evan decides to have one final talk with Zoe where they both talk about how they wish they could have met under different circumstances. Yada yada yada. Evan ends his story on a happy note. Roll fucking credits. God, this movie is fucking awful. I want to fucking die. This movie is shit. I can't skirt around that fact. There's a reason this movie scored a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like I said before, this movie is supposed to be a direct adaptation of the original stage play. Being that the stage play was a hell of a lot longer than the movie, the studio, of course, had to cut things down to avoid cost and runtime. This would have been fine had they not cut a giant chunk of the songs and straight up delete some of the essential plot point elements of this movie. I get it. Time is money, and some shit had to be cut. There's no denying that. However, I feel like the movie tries too hard to justify Evan's actions, and the fact that they cut out "good for you" shows the amount of fucks they gave for the plot. I could excuse a good chunk of the shitty things about this movie had they done the bare fucking minimum and kept the one song where Evan is being called out. But nope. Instead, we get this random ass song from Alana, and Heidi's songs were all but cut out, save for one song that's just stroking Evan's ego. This movie feels more like a Ben Platt worship piece than an adaptation of the original work. The songs were decent, but don't expect me to rank them in this video. This movie has disgraced them far too much to actually put them in this video. I'll probably do a separate video ranking the songs and how I feel about them. I've had my fair share of bullshit from this movie today. I'd like to give a special thanks to my boy Patrick /Jimothy for his voice lines in this video. Without you, this video would have been a complete scream fest. With all that being said, I give Dear Evan Hansen a solid 3 out of 10. Not the worst movie I've ever seen, it's by no intention decent.
Can